Court is back in session. Welcome back to another episode of Tony's Takes presented by me, the leader of the Joe Judge fan club, Anthony Rivardo, Anthony_Rivardo on Twitter. Tony, back for another episode of Tony's Takes, number 7. And today we are going to be breaking down undrafted free agent offensive lineman Brett Heggie from the Florida Gators. This is a player who the Giants signed after this year's NFL draft. They went ahead and did not draft any offensive linemen in this year's draft, despite having one of the worst offensive lines in the league last year. And a particular sore spot on the Giants' offensive line is the interior of their offensive line. Brett Heggie is an interior offensive lineman. He played left guard, right guard, and center during his career with the Florida Gators. And let's break him down to see what he might potentially bring to this team this year, or maybe in the years in the future. Of course, he's an undrafted free agent, so be your expectations with him. Try not to raise the bar too high. Don't put anything on him that you don't think he can realistically achieve, but you never know, okay? Some undrafted free agents do develop into pretty spectacular players, and maybe Brett Heggie can be that guy. But anyway, we're going to discuss him. We're going to talk about his stats in college, his highlights, and the pro analysis. Sports Illustrated and NFL.com, they have some scouts that went over him. We're going to talk about that, talk about a little bit of an injury history. Then I'm going to go ahead and give you my analysis as I do a quick film breakdown, 5 or so clips, nothing special, just against the Alabama game. Something quick and easy for you guys to digest so you can get familiar with Brett Heggie as we head into training camp at the end of this month. So, to start off, I'm going to talk about the Giants' offensive line, okay? Of course, that was the biggest question mark on the Giants roster, still is. In 2020, their pass block win rate, according to ESPN, ranked dead last in the NFL at 46%, which is a very, very low number. Their run block win rate ranked 18th at 70%, which is about average or maybe a little bit slightly below average, but much better run blocking than they are in pass protection. And I gotta say, the Giants' offensive line scares the crap out of me, of course. I think most Giants fans feel the same way. I think we like what we have in left tackle Andrew Thomas. I think we like what we have in center Nick Gates. I like what we have in Matt Parrott, but I know not everyone's sold on him just yet. I'm not so sure in what we have at either guard position. Feel really questionable about both those guys, Will Hernandez and Shane Lemieux. I've been a pretty open critic about Shane Lemieux as well after his rookie season. I wasn't too fond of it. Some others disagree. But that's, of course, they're all young players with young offensive line coach and a whole lot of potential. And we'll see how they develop this year. And again, another young offensive lineman added to the fold through the undrafted free agency process, Brett Heggie. We'll see how he's able to develop in his rookie season. So off the bat, talking about Brett Heggie, this is a guy who was redshirted. He played left and right guard in 2017 through 2019, kind of moved to both sides. Wherever they needed him to play, he played. But he then moved to center in 2020, where he started all 12 games, and he was even named SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week following his performance at Ole Miss, where the Florida offense set a school record for yards against an SEC opponent with 642 total yards of offense. Pretty impressive display by that Florida offense featuring Kyle Pitts, Kyle Trask, and of course Kadarius Toney as well as Brett Heggie. Of course, he finished his career with 41 games played, including 31 starts. So consistently, he was one of the best offensive lineman on Florida's roster, and they tried to get him out there as often as possible. 41 games played, 31 of those he started. He was actually an SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week 3 times in his career. 2 of them came at guard, and 1 of them came at center. So he kind of played all over the interior of Florida's offensive line throughout his career and played pretty solidly. They trusted him to go out there and be the starter, and he had a couple of really impressive performances that earned him some awards in his career. So very cool to see. Had a very successful collegiate career. But of course, we're going to now talk about his analysis as a prospect and what we might think of his upcoming NFL career. So the pro analysis, let's talk about what Sports Illustrated had to say about him first. Heggie projects as a solid backup at all 3 interior positions who can come in and allow the offense to function. Now, I really like this quote because I think it's very crucial when you talk about the New York Giants. So another player that I think of on the Giants who can be a solid backup at all 3 interior positions is Zach Fulton. So is Brett Heggie maybe going to fit that Zach Fulton archetype where he can kind of just be your versatile backup on the interior? Sounds like it. Sounds like he could potentially develop into a player just like that. And that's not a bad thing to have. That's always a good thing to have. Obviously, Zach Fulton not being a long-term answer or solution as a starter or as a backup, veteran guy, but Brett Heggie potentially could be a long-term backup on this offensive line with the versatility to play anywhere on the interior. We all know how much my guy Joe Judge, our king, Joe Judge, loves versatility, especially on the offensive line. Look at Nick Gates, as I already mentioned, Zach Fulton, but Nick Gates has played right tackle, right guard, and center in the NFL, and now he is our starting center. Sports Illustrated is also quoted saying he does not possess the length, athleticism, or power required to develop into a quality starter. So their analysis, they feel pretty solid on he will be a backup for his career. They don't see him becoming a starter. And Lance Zierlein of NFL.com also had pretty similar things to say. To compliment him, go with the pros first. He does say he has the desired size for an NFL center and displays adequate power. However, there are major protection concerns for him as a guard, and he does have sometimes lazy hand placement. Now, it's also worth noting that there is a slight injury history with Brett Heggie. He did suffer a season-ending injury as a freshman. He dealt with some injuries as a sophomore, but he was healthy and started all 12 games in 2020, so it seems like the injuries are behind him. He's healthy, ready to compete at the NFL level. And that's pretty much the analysis that I was able to gather in great summary from Sports Illustrated and from Lance Zierlein. But now we'll go ahead and move on to my analysis as we get into the film breakdown portion. I'll give you my quick Cliff Notes version of the analysis first before we head into the film breakdown. So off the bat, what I noticed with Brett Heggie, sometimes in pass protection, his hands do get a little too wide. And sometimes he also struggles to anchor against a bull rush. And this is often because he leaves that wide opening and strike zone on his chest, allowing defenders to gain control. When you're an offensive lineman at any position, the number one thing you cannot do is allow the defender to make initial contact on your chest and gain control. When they do initiate on your chest, if they're the first ones to make contact and they have control, or they have their hands on your chest, they then have control and they're able to do whatever they want with you. They can pull you to the side, they can push right through you. It gets really scary as an offensive lineman if you leave this wide opening on your chest. So, usually you want elbows tucked in pass protection. That's always the number one thing. You go ahead on YouTube, Google, or go to any offensive line coach. We had an offensive line coach specialist working with us at ASM at one point. Number one thing that they will all tell you, or that you will find in any piece of information regarding offensive line play and technique, elbows tucked, keep them tight, don't give them control of your chest. And sometimes he does that, and that's a little bit of a issue in terms of his pass protection technique. But a positive here, I'll throw this out there. Alabama did run a lot of twists and stunts in the film that we're about to watch. I watched the full game, and they ran a lot of twists and stunts, and Heggie did a really good job picking them up and reading them. And he also did a really good job with just general blitz protection and blitz pickup. Was pretty happy to see that. And he also does go looking for work, which we know the Giants offensive linemen, there's a couple of them. Will Hernandez likes to go looking for work. Nick Gates loves to go looking for work. And basically what I mean by that is good chip blocks, good help outs. If you don't have anything to do, this happens a lot to centers where the blitzes will just all go to the guards and the tackles, so they'll kind of just be standing there in no man's land. Well, go look for work. Go knock this guy on his ass to the right of you or to the left of you. And Brett Heggie's pretty good at that. He had a couple good chip blocks on this film against some unsuspecting defenders, and he absolutely did put them on their ass. And I thought that was pretty cool to see. Just an overall smart player, I think, for sure. Definitely has the adequate size, the adequate strength. But there are some concerns in terms of his technique and his overall just efficiency as an offensive lineman. But I do agree with the analysis. I think that there's a lot to work with, and you could see him potentially having a pretty fruitful career as a backup. But anyway, let's jump into this film. I've got 5 clips against Alabama to watch, so let's go ahead and break that down. All right, now I am excited to jump into the film breakdown portion of this video. Take a look at some of these clips that I gathered on Brett Heggie against Alabama, and just give them quick analysis on them. So we'll go ahead and jump into the first play right away, wasting no time there. You see him lined up at center, number 61 for Florida Gators offensive line. Let's see this play right here. And this is going to be what I was talking about earlier in terms of struggling with his hand placement, right? So you're going to see here as this play develops, All right, ball is snapped by Heggie. Sorry, having a little tough time here with the StreamYard. And all right, watch that left arm kind of flail out there as he struggles to get that arm up quickly. So you see defensive tackle gets his hands on him first, gets him up really quickly. Good job by the defensive tackle here. Gets that left hand right on Heggie's chest. Heggie has yet to get either one of his hands on the defensive lineman, and he kind of takes a while swinging that elbow out, swinging that arm into the defensive lineman. You want to see quick, tight movements to get the hands up and keep the defensive lineman from getting control of the chest. He fails to do that here. Defensive lineman gets control of his chest. You could see his left arm up on the shoulder pad of Heggie, and he uses that to kind of just throw him to the side there at the end, puts him on the floor. Lucky that there's a extra offensive lineman that comes in and whacks that defensive lineman down to the ground. But ultimately, there was some pressure up the interior due to Heggie and a couple other places. Dead play for Kyle Trask and the Florida Gators offense. But this is just one play of a few that I noticed where Heggie's hands got a little wide. He wasn't having tight movements, and it just became a little bit of a problem for him in pass protection. So I'll go ahead and watch this play. And again, you're going to see him struggle to anchor here, which is something that I mentioned as well. Again, you see here, he's trying to get that right hand on the defensive lineman, but you see the defensive lineman has his hand just pushing that right arm away. He can't even get it straightened out, can't get it on him, even though the defender's right arm is literally just controlling Brett Heggie through the left shoulder. He has it on him, and he has control of him, and Heggie fails to anchor here. As you could see, the other two offensive linemen, I believe that's the left guard and left tackle there, or maybe I got to rewatch to see what happened. But there's two offensive linemen that are about 5 yards in front of Brett Heggie. Heggie is horizontal here, or vertical, and the other guys are horizontal. So he's totally just out of position and totally driven back, kind of into the lap of Kyle Trask, really giving Kyle Trask some pressure there, really struggling to anchor. And let's see exactly what happens. So, okay. As the play begins. So he is going to snap the ball, shift over to get this guy. And see, okay, I get that he's kick stepping, right? And he's trying to get into position, but that left arm needs to come up a bit sooner. He's going to go out with one hand, and then he's going to struggle to get this left hand into proper position. See, he has one arm out trying to block this defender in pass protection, but that left arm is doing nothing. And then, of course, this is a good defensive lineman. This is Alabama, of course, and a really nice kind of club move there on his arm just allows him to rip away. And I guess Heggie does a decent job recovering at the end there. I'm not going to lie. I think that this could have been a lot worse. He does prevent the rip move from the defensive lineman to really finish this play off. But overall, you just see his hands are a little bit slow, a little bit lazy, as Lance Zierlein said, maybe, to use his analysis, not even my own, but he did mention lazy hand placement at times. And you could probably argue that this wide, left arm movement might be a little bit lazy. He just gets one arm on there right in the center of the defensive lineman, thinks that's enough. You got to get two hands on him. Otherwise, he's going to give you some trouble. And he does struggle to anchor there. You could see as evidenced by the other offensive lineman on the play. And again, also he struggles to anchor a little bit here. I didn't see him let up any sacks in this game, I'll say that much, but there's just a couple plays where I just see his hands get wide. You could see right here, his left arm is on basically the back shoulder of the defensive lineman, and so is his right arm. He's really kind of just hugging him here, allowing this defender to just bull rush right through his chest, put him again in the lap of Kyle Trask. This has happened a couple of times in this game where he was just kind of being walked backwards into Kyle Trask's lap. And I think what you're seeing every single time it happens, at least my analysis, you're seeing a very wide beginning to this play with that left arm. We're seeing that again on this play. You see how wide his hands come up. There's no tight movements. These elbows got to stay a bit tighter than this. I understand he's firing out of his stance after snapping the ball, but this is just something that kept showing up to me on the tape, was just inconsistent hand placement, wide hands, and allowing defenders to get control of his chest a little bit too frequently, anchoring towards the end of the play as Kyle Trask gets rid of the ball. He's not just getting ran over and letting up these sacks, but he is struggling to anchor and defend these bull rushing, these power moves from these defensive linemen. And I feel like the main reason for that is because he does have this hand placement that gets a little out of whack sometimes, and he does leave this strike zone, huge strike zone on his chest at times. And I think that's shown up a couple times in these clips that I brought to you guys. So that's my analysis on that play. Let's see what happens on the next one. Let's move on to that. And here's one of those plays. That's Christian Barmore. He was considered arguably the best interior defensive lineman in this year's draft class out of Alabama, number 58 there on the defensive line. And you're going to see Brett Heggie. This is one of those plays I was talking about earlier. He loves to go looking for work. And as I mentioned, sometimes when you're center, no one lines up over you. No one pass rushes into you on a passing play. But you got to go find some work, man. You can't just be standing there idle waiting for nothing to happen. He sees Christian Barmore going one-on-one with his right guard. Let's go give him some help. Let's go knock Christian Barmore on his ass real quick. Love to see that tenacity right there. Kind of reminds you of a play that Nick Gates would make. We have seen him do that a few times where, he's playing center, guard is in one-on-one situation. Go knock him on his ass. And I love that Brett Heggie did that there. Really nice play. And here, this is one of those really good plays I was mentioning earlier where you see him pick up one of those blitzes, pick up a stunt. I saw him pick up a lot of stunts and twists and do a really good job in pass protection against the blitz at times. And this is one of those plays. You're going to see number 32 initially rushes into Heggie, then goes around to the left guard. Number 48 twists around, goes right into the center. And Heggie does a really good job just picking that up real quick and keeping Kyle Trask clean on that play. So maybe I added a couple negative plays here, maybe too many. I don't know. Go ahead, watch the game for yourself. Let me know what your analysis is. I did watch this full game. And overall, I'd probably give it a C+ for Heggie. I think, in the running game, here's what I'll say, because I didn't talk too much about that in this film breakdown. In the running game, Heggie is about average. He had nothing that just wowed me in this game. I know that there's that really popular clip of him against Ole Miss where he drives that defensive tackle back like 10 yards. Love that play. That play is freaking sick. But in terms of this game against Alabama that I watched, in the running game, I saw a completely average player. I saw him have good blocks, but nothing overpowering on these defensive linemen, nothing just insane. And I also did see a few whiffs, a few moments where he didn't have the right leverage and he ended up on the ground. Just not a flawless game by any means by Brett Heggie here. He is going up against the best of the best competition. This is Alabama. Keep that in mind, of course. And maybe take certain things with a grain of salt when you're going up against this competition. But overall, I'd give this game, drop my gavel there, I'll pick that up so I can do my outro. I'd give this game about a CC+ for Brett Heggie, pretty average. And I do actually tend to agree with the analysis of Sports Illustrated and Lance Zierlein. I don't think this is a player that the Giants should be too quick to cut at training camp. I do see some potential with Brett Heggie played out in the SEC. I think this is a player that they're going to want to keep around as a developmental backup piece. I think that he could really provide a lot on the interior of the offensive line, just being a versatile little piece that can really fill in at any one of those points, left guard, center, or right guard. If there's ever an injury or anything goes wrong there, he can fill in, and I don't think that the offense is going to collapse because of him being in the lineup. So I think that's really solid. That's a better NFL career than most players, undrafted players, end up having. But I do see that kind of potential with Brett Heggie. I think that he can be a really solid developmental backup piece for the Giants. And I absolutely do hope to see him make the final roster this year and hopefully develop into that quality backup player that I believe he can be. And don't ever underestimate the importance of a quality backup offensive lineman. We should know by now how important those players can be, how tremendous the value of a quality backup offensive lineman can be. So Brett Heggie, that's my analysis on him. I do like him a whole lot. I'm excited to see exactly what happens with him. I guess you never know, but there you go. There you guys have it. That's my breakdown on Brett Heggie, my analysis. I brought in the analysis of some other, sources as well. So it's not just me. Gave you the pros analysis as well. Told you his stats. And that was fun. I was happy to break him down for you guys on this episode of Tony's Takes. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Let me know down in the comment section below. What do you think of Brett Heggie? Where do you see his ceiling being? What's his floor? What's his ceiling? And are you hoping that he makes 53-man roster? Is this a player that you have as a potential sleeper? I saw someone comment on Twitter on a clip that I posted, I believe. They said that he thinks that Brett Heggie's the next Andrew Norwell. I think that's a very bold claim, but we'll see, man. You never know, right? Dave Gettleman did find Andrew Norwell, who became an all-pro guard as an undrafted free agent, I believe. So let's hope that Brett Heggie is the next Andrew Norwell. But anyway, guys, leave a like if you enjoyed. Let's have some talks in the some chatter in the comment section below. Make sure to join the Discord so you can get the direct line to myself and my co-host Alex Wilson. And make sure to join the membership section of the channel if you want to give a whole lot of input on Tony's takes. Give me all the topics that you want me to cover, and I cover them for all of the members priority first, and then I go on to the rest of the fans. Shout out to Frank Strange, I believe, the loyal fan who commented and gave me the idea for this video. So shout out to you, and thank you guys all for tuning in, and hope to see you guys on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.